but he's dealing with an abdominal strain, and you've got to give him a little bit of grace. But people had him in their Heisman candidacy as being one of those guys or having win. He was at one of the higher percentages as far as bets at the beginning of the year to win the Heisman. But the fact that people ignored how much the dude turns the ball over is alarming to me. But it's a disappointing season regardless of how you want to slice it. But let's get over to our first superlative, man. Let's get into the fast riser in college football. And if you've been paying attention to my Twitter, I've been trying to put out some gems for you guys. Look, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, say that 10 times fast, was recruited to the Florida Gators, then played 2 seasons at Syracuse, then transferred again, and has now taken the starting reins at quarterback at Marshall. So in the first 2 games, he split time with Ja'Kai Long and Zion Turner. And then the last 2 games, he's actually started. So with the pretty much three total games that he's played out of the 4, I guess if you want to add the 2 halves in there, 51-65, 77.4 completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 635 passing yards, 164 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. We got a fast riser here, man. And we thought that Marshall was going to be dookie butter. Like, we thought that they were going to be the worst team in college football. Carlos Del Rio Wilson came in and said, not so fast. And really and truly, with the way that the Florida Gators are playing, it almost brings up the conversation. Are we letting some of our best talent just go wherever instead of trying to retain these guys in and, you know, obviously put them on the pedestal where they deserve a lot more respect, you know, being on some of these teams than they actually get, or, you know, for us to give more treatment for these guys than what we've given before. But Carlos has been fantastic to watch. He's a great dual threat quarterback, and he's making the most of his opportunity, most importantly. So, of course, he's a fast riser because he's kind of late to the process, right? You know, college football starts really, really fast. In the first 2 weeks, we could tell you who the good quarterbacks are, but, you know, 4 games in, and he's looking fantastic. I wonder what Fran Brown is thinking right now. I mean, Fran had him on his team last year. You know, Steve Angeli goes down after Colin McCord, you know, has had a season where, you know, he had the most, I think it was the most passing yards in college football last year, and you just let your backup just get up and leave. So, hey, it is what it is. It's what the transfer portal's for, to give people an opportunity, and he didn't start this year, right? And then, boom, now he's the – I don't think you're going back after you see a stat line like this. Like, you know, stats don't paint the full picture of everything, but he's making the most out of his opportunity. The best freshman quarterback right now. Guys, have you guys been watching BYU play football? There was a guy named Jake Retzlaff that got himself in a little bit of trouble with the school. Had to transfer out to Tulane. Looked fantastic in his first game. They've been kind of slow, you know, from here on out, but Jake Retzlaff was supposed to be the guy. The BY Jew is what they used to call him, right? It's crazy how the expectations and the foregone conclusion of Jake Retzlaff was supposed to be the starter, but Bear Bachmeier comes in. I believe his brother is Hank Bachmeier that played for Louisiana Tech and Wake Forest. But Bear Bachmeier comes in, and it's crazy that he's doing the things that he's doing, you know, without it being Jake Retzlaff name, you know, up there on the stat sheet. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, got 5 on the ground, 12 total touchdowns on the year with 1 interception as a true freshman. This is insane. He's tough. He's wise beyond his years if you ever seen him play. And that's kind of an understatement. He keeps his team in games, and my man is wearing a number 47. He's not a traditional quarterback whatsoever. The thing that I like about this team, though, is Chase Roberts has been a constant for them for years. And even when I interviewed Jaron Hall at the Senior Bowl, one of the things I'd ask him was like, you know, shout out some of your teammates that helped get you this far. And one that he said was Chase Roberts. Chase Roberts is their leading receiver on the team. He's been a great weapon. He's been a great teammate. He had chemistry with Kedon Slovis. He had chemistry with Jaren Hall. He had chemistry with Jake Retzlaff. And now in his fourth quarterback, he's having a lot of chemistry with 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝘀𝘀. When are we going to start putting some respect on 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀's name on Chase Roberts' name for how good that he's been over these last couple of years. I know he's battled some injuries and things like that, but 𝗕𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀 has got them the number one team in the Big 12 right now, and they are steamrolling teams. They're steamrolling teams. Also, it helps to have L.J. Martin as your running back. L.J. Martin has been fantastic. Last year, he was the freshman phenom, and I think he's still averaging 7 yards a carry or something ridiculous like that. Yeah, he's had some lingering injuries and stuff like that too, but man, when it comes to the running back class for next year, man, we got some big names that we need to watch out for. And then a guy that used to play Tulane, now that we're talking about Jake Retzlaff and all those guys, homie at Oregon just redshirted to forego his, to go into his last year of football since he wasn't getting a start. And Mekhi Hughes. So yeah, Retzlaff had to rebrand as the Julane. That's hilarious. Let's get into the most disappointing quarterbacks so far. Torque, I'm sorry, I see you in the chat, man. I didn't want to have to do this, but I think me and you can agree. This has been a disappointing year for a lot of quarterbacks. And most importantly, it's been a disappointing year for Garrett Nussmeier. Look, you could have 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 in this conversation. It looks like they're starting to turn the ship around there and look better. But I think both of these things are true for both Tiger teams. I think the running game is equating to, or the lack of a running game and having a true number two on this team has really not helped both of these quarterbacks. Look, Garrett Nussmeier is a turnover machine too. We talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the season. Like, this is the reason why I couldn't trust Garrett Nussmeier was that. He is one of those guys that will, and I couldn't even get the words out, man, because it's frustrating watching him because he struggles with inaccuracies. The balls that he should be getting out for clear first downs, he's missed several of them this year. He short arms passes, even though he has a big arm. I don't understand. The one thing about Garrett Nussmeier is, I think for a lot of people, and I think the same could be said about Drew Aller, but I think Drew Aller's in a worse situation with Ando Kotelnicki than Garrett Nussmeier's in. He passes the eye test, right? They both pass the eye test because they show flashes and has the size of the prototypical quarterback. But what we've seen time and time again is we can't evaluate by the size and the intangibles all the time. You have to evaluate what they put down on the field. And we're going to get to the next quarterback here that doesn't have this and has showed up. But Garrett Nussmeier is having a disappointing season. We're not saying that he's a terrible quarterback, but Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, really got to start thinking about, the hype that we start putting on guys. His completion percentage on deep throws past 20 yards is a 30.4. That's not, when you're the quarterback for LSU and you recruit the receivers that you have, you severely lack the weapons that are there by having a throw percentage downfield of 30.4%. And his big time throw percentage is on the low end as well. But to be fair to Garrett Nussmeier, and I know one thing people don't bring this up. The one thing that I will say is Garrett Nussmeier is dealing with an abdominal strain. And the same way that we've given some grace about other teams in the past, i.e. the Quinn Ewers at Texas, we kind of got to give the same thing to Garrett Nussmeier. He's fighting through it. He's a warrior. Abdominal strains suck, especially when you're playing quarterback. All the torque you have to put on your body. but he's dealing with an abdominal strain, and you've got to give him a little bit of grace. But people had him in their Heisman candidacy as being one of those guys or having win. He was at one of the higher percentages as far as bets at the beginning of the year to win the Heisman. But the fact that people ignored how much the dude turns the ball over is alarming to me. But it's a disappointing season regardless of how you want to slice it. You know, it just is what it is. My QB Jim. Noah Fifita is back, ladies and gentlemen. Noah Fifita is back. Y'all remember the hype that he came off his freshman year, right? And the second year, I was so high on him, man. Him and 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, I thought, I just thought that they were going to lift him up. Like everything that was there was going to lift him up. Then Brent Brennan came in as their coach and kind of rained on everybody's parade coming over from San Jose State. We were like, no. He was so close to the precipice of being great. And then you switch coaches. Jedd Fisch goes off, takes the job at Washington. And I would almost like to be in the alternate universe where Noah Fifita and 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀 go to Washington instead of staying at Arizona. I wish this was the case. Just to see what that last year 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀 and Noah Fifita would have looked like. But the universe has turned its head on us and said, let's go grab former quarterback Seth Ďagey to become your offensive coordinator. Seth Ďagey comes in, gives Noah Fifita a little bit more confidence since he was a former quarterback. And it looks like the decision to stay at Arizona has worked out because, to me, they are the scariest team in the Big 12 that nobody's talking about. Their defense is fantastic. They changed defensive coordinators, too. Defense was one of the top 3 defenses in the first 3 weeks of the season. People don't know about that, but they were kicking ass. The thing about Noah, though, he looks more poised this year. Last year, he looked skittish. It looked like he was scared to throw the ball. He was getting swarmed. The offensive line wasn't blocking well. But what Seth Ďagey has come in, and they've given him a lot more quick throws. They said, okay, we noticed that our offensive line wasn't as efficient as it was your freshman year. So we have to account for that. Okay, so we're gonna scheme up some quick throws and some timing routes for you to get the ball out, for you to know exactly where you need to get the ball to. And we're going to be very quarterback friendly for you this year. And that's what Seth Ďagey has done. But I mean, the stats speak for themselves, man. 106 for 164, 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, another 3 on the ground. And having anything over a 67% completion percentage in college, and he's right over that, 67.3, to me is a benchmark that I like to look at that's not too high where we're like, oh my God, this dude is overrated, but not too low where you understand that a lot of things don't happen. And if you've ever dealt with any type of data, right? If you're in an office job where you're analyzing data or working with data scientists, the one thing that you try to build in a little bit of anomalies with your data to notice, like, guys should be performing over this or be performing under this, or they should have like a century mark. And seeing a 67% completion percentage in college makes you just smile when you look at, and it has to be backed up by the rest of the statistics, like how many touchdowns he has with the low interception percentage, and the success by their record as well. So my quarterback, Jim, is Noah Fifita. Hopefully he keeps it up. They've been playing teams really, really hard, and hopefully he continues that. And those 1 or 2 off games, we get it. I'm not saying that Arizona is going to go in and beat the brakes off of everybody, but this is the Noah Fifita that we thought was going to be there last year. And Brent Brennan went in and got rid of the OC and D coordinator after 1 year and brought some new guys in. And Seth Ďagey's been doing a fantastic job on that offense. The most pro-ready quarterback right now is Carson Beck. Don't care we can sit here and evaluate. And I'm talking about right now, halfway through the season. To me, the most pro-ready quarterback is Carson Beck. Look, Florida State's defense was nothing to play with, right? We all understand that. Notre Dame's defense is nothing to play with. USF, they got really good corners out there. Florida's defense almost reminds you of Iowa having a really good defense, having a very poor offense, or Oklahoma before they've had success. Really good defense, really bad offense. That's what Florida was. Florida's defense has been keeping their team in games, keeping Billy Napier with his job. Carson Beck is one of those guys that doesn't matter what wide receiver is out there, and he's been spreading the ball around, right? Doesn't matter what receiver's out there. Malachi Tony's been eating. CJ Daniels has been eating. We've even seen Keelan Marion come in. Elijah Lofton at tight end. You know, Tony Johnson's had 3 big catches so far this season. And like I said, the running game runs hard, but it's not one of those running games where you're going to look at every single week and be like, man, they're going to put up 100 yards. Mark Fletcher's not going to put up 100 yards a game on you. He's just not that type of running back. But they run hard enough to let Carson Beck do his thing in the passing game. Their defense is good enough and their offensive line holds up. So what makes you think that in the NFL, when any talent evaluator looks at this 73% completion percentage, he's had some rough spots. They had their team in some rough spots where he's had to climb them out. But whenever they needed a crucial third down, whenever they needed a tough throw downfield, and whenever they needed the most pro-ready passes that you would see this year, outside of one quarterback that we'll get into, he's the most pro-ready out of the guys that are eligible for the draft right now. And if the draft was to start today, he would be the guy that I would hone in on taking number 1 overall. Now, these are the guys that don't have any more eligibility. This is Carson Beck's last year, right? So I just want that to be a thing that gets said. Now, the best quarterback to me in college football is Darian Mensah. Darian Mensah for Duke, whatever Tulane did to just give him up, whatever money that Duke was paying him to come over, which was something extraordinary, it was worth every damn penny. Look, and I go back and the games that they've played against like Illinois and Tulane, where they proceed to lose both of those games back to back, was not in due part to Darian Mensah playing bad. It's just they had no running game. And on top of that, the way that he was dropping the ball in the bucket to some of these receivers, they were not catching the ball. This is one thing that I said, later on after that Illinois game. I said Duke will be much better if those receivers could catch, if they believed in their catching ability a little bit more, because he's putting the ball where it needs to go. Darian Mensah at this point in time should be leading the country in touchdowns. I know it's Sawyer Robertson, but he should have 20-plus touchdowns at this point in time. Passing. Yeah, I said it. Probably 2,000 yards passing, which would be extraordinary. At the middle point of the season, that would be amazing. He would be on a trajectory of – he would definitely be in the Heisman conversation as the number 1 quarterback right now. I think he has the best arm in the country with an anemic offense. So I don't know what type of money. I don't know what his situation is, if he really just cares about his education at this point, where he wanted to make a lateral move over to Duke, that Tulane couldn't give him the education that he wanted. Then the money came with it. I don't know what his whole situation is like, and I'm not here to speculate on that. I just think if he was to enter the transfer portal this offseason, my goodness, he's going to be the number 1 quarterback in the portal. I do want to shout out Nate Shepherd. And we broke this down. Torque, you remember that? If you guys saw the video of Darian Mensah and the passes that he was making, when a lot of people were saying that Luke Altmaier was the better quarterback than him, and I said, if you watch that game, Duke should have won against him. They just didn't play confident football, the rest of the team. Nate Shepherd has been a godsend for the development of Darian Mensah in the running game. He's averaging 7 yards per carry. It is something that they severely needed against Illinois and Tulane. Like, I think he had 5 carries in the first game, 5 carries in the second game, and 5 carries in the third game when they played Illinois. And now he's been averaging over that, like 15 yards a carry in the rest of the games that they've played. So we've seen a drastic turnaround in the offense just because he's able to open the running game. I encourage you guys to circle that dude's name, Nate Shepherd, because he's been incredible. And their catch percentage has dramatically increased since that's happened too. Which I think not only shows a little bit, and I'm not in those 4 walls, but I just probably would have to guess that he has not only gone to his offense coordinators, but his wide receivers and said, look, you guys got to start catching the ball, whatever we got to do to stay after practice, whatever we got. And that comes down to showing leadership right there. Without having to see it, I'm telling you, whatever chemistry project was going on that he had to get those guys' mind right these last couple games, he did it. And he showed you against the Syracuse game. He showed you when we picked the upset over NC State. We are starting to see, him be the best quarterback in the country.